This video is sponsored by Squarespace.
Asking for help is the first step. Whether it's covering hospital fees or supporting a local nonprofit, your cause is worthy. There's a place for you and your fundraiser on GoFundMe.
GoFundMe is an American for-profit crowdfunding platform that allows people to raise money for life events like celebrations and graduations or challenging circumstances like accidents and illnesses. It was initially founded by two marketing specialists, Brad Damhouse and Andy Ballester. GoFundMe CEO is now Tim Cadogan, who worked in advertising and consulting in the tech industry. From 2010 to the beginning of 2020, over $9 billion have been raised on the platforms with contribution from over $120 million. In 2017, GoFundMe became the biggest crowdfunding platform. People used the website to pay for medical procedures, debt relief, humanitarian causes, movements, etc. For every donation people make on the platform, GoFundMe receives a transaction fee of 2.9% plus 30 cents that is automatically deduced from each donation. That is why it remains a business. Its goal is to generate profit. In fact, in 2015, they sold a majority stake of the company in an investor group. On the platform, you find a list of different crowdfunding projects. You can go check the trending section to see which projects are getting more attention at the moment. Every fundraiser is encouraged to share a picture, a video, as well as a little text explaining their story to strangers, including potential donors who will judge if the cause is worth their money. That system creates a sort of philanthropy market where each fundraiser has to differentiate themselves from others to get the donations, which means that they sometimes have to share details about their lives to strangers. The most engaging stories are then used by GoFundMe as part of their marketing strategy on their social media. The business often makes the headlines as scams are quite common. Maybe you've heard about the story of Caitlin McClure and her boyfriend who raised $400,000 by inventing a tale around a homeless man, Mr. Bobbitt. They said Bobbitt gave Caitlin his last $20 when she ran out of gas and that she wanted people to help support him and reward his kindness. That was a complete lie. She went to prison for that and people got refunded. But there are other ugly stories in which GoFundMe did not put an end to the campaign and did not refund the donors. If you've watched my last video, you probably know what I'm talking about. In 2014, after the Ferguson, Missouri police officer Darren Wilson shot and killed an unarmed teenager, Michael Brown, a user also created a campaign to support Wilson. It amounted to $200,000, more than the GoFundMe page that was dedicated to Michael Brown Memorial. Donors also used the comment section of that page to say horrible things, like, "I support Officer Wilson and he did a great job removing an unnecessary thug from the public." So GoFundMe deleted comments that it deemed to be in violation of its terms of service, but otherwise said its policy was to not get involved. Quote, "Much like Facebook and Twitter, GoFundMe is an open technology platform that allows for the exchange of," wait for it, "ideas and opinions." A year later, the company finally updated its terms to include the following statement. Quote, "Campaigns in defense of formal charges or claims of heinous crimes, violent, hateful, sexual, or discriminatory acts are not permitted on GoFundMe." So that is GoFundMe, that's why I wanted to make this video, but I thought that just pointing out everything I dislike about them would be a bit too easy, because it is clear that the problem extends beyond GoFundMe. It is precisely the system that allows it to exist, to flourish even, that is the problem. GoFundMe is the symptom of everything that is wrong with capitalism, the relationship between money, power, and democracy. I mean, let me read you that statement again, following the Michael Brown situation. They said, "Much like Facebook and Twitter, GoFundMe is an open technology platform that allows for the exchange of ideas and opinions." So yeah, that's what I want to investigate today. What role does GoFundMe play in our liberal democracies? How does it feed into what I call fast food democracy? To answer those questions, we first need to take an honest look at the state of our democracies. I'll be focusing on North America and Western Europe since GoFundMe primarily operates in those areas. The price of democracy. Democracy is about representation. In order to be represented, a political idea or group has to gain power through electoral processes. And we all know that running a campaign, whether it is political, humanitarian, and whatnot, costs a lot of money. Money is essential in our liberal democracies. According to the liberal think tank idea, money in politics allows for participation, campaigning, and representation. As an example, until the 1980s, working classes made up a third of Labour MPs in the UK. That is because the party largely benefited from the money they received through working class people's memberships or through trade unions. But that was 40 years ago. In the following decades, the percentage of working class Labour MPs decreased to reach 13% of the parliament in 2022. In the meantime, private donations from wealthy individuals and corporations grew to amount to 38% of the party's resources, despite only representing a small portion of the British population. So democracy is in crisis because those in power do not represent the people. That's not big news though. But it doesn't stop there. In The Price of Democracy, economist Julia Cagé explains that rich donors are massively subsidized by other taxpayers, including the least well-off, in the exercise of their political preferences. Let me give you an example. France. The country spends less than €1 per capita, so per head, to the public funding of democracy. Yet it reimburses on average nearly €165 a year to the 290,000 taxpayers who help to fund the political party of their choice. It's even bigger than that for the richest donors. And I don't think it will be a surprise to you if I told you that the parties on the right side of the political spectrum receive more money in donations than parties on the left. As Cagé showed, today private donations by individuals and companies provide 70% of resources for the Conservative Party in the UK, 40% for Forza Italia, and 20% for the Republicans in France. So we are not only slaves to the whims of rich donors, but also finance their donations through taxes. Even political elites are slaves to capitalism. In 2022, Australian Defence Minister Peter Dutton has set up a GoFundMe page for Queensland flood victims, and the Prime Minister responded that he did not understand the backlash to the fundraiser. He said, quote, "That sounds to me like someone doing their job." Now, because people feel, and in fact know, that they are powerless, they naturally want to find new ways to have an influence over what happens in the world. As an example, some took part in Web3, in cryptocurrencies, because they saw them as an opportunity to exert some political power to build an internet that would be more inclusive, more democratic, more meritocratic, some even said. That is the narrative that people like Sam Bankman-Fried pushed to get working classes, women, LGBTQ+ people, and POC involved. Their marketing strategy targeted those groups who had the least political influence by selling them a sort of inclusive libertarian fantasy, a brand new project in which everyone could join and find their community only if they bought cryptocurrency. And those people got screwed. They got screwed because the influence they could have over crypto communities was relative to their wealth. And they couldn't compete with the wealthy tech bros like Bankman-Fried and the others who had been around for a while, who ruled the game. The world of Web3 and crypto had the aesthetic of direct democracy, but only replicated the inequalities of power and representation that already exist in the real world. Cryptocurrencies, GoFundMe, these are things or platforms that promote what I call fast food democracy. The idea behind fast food democracy is that political influence becomes something that one can consume quickly for cheap. It's a little bit of cryptocurrency, it's a donation to a GoFundMe page, it can also be a signature on a petition. In the case of GoFundMe, why calling it fast food democracy and not just fast food philanthropy, a term coined by Laura MacDonald, chair of Giving USA Foundation? Well, philanthropy is about supporting causes, but as we mentioned in the introduction of the video, GoFundMe doesn't only support causes, it supports political causes. That means it plays a political role. In turn, it's when things get political that the amount of money raised soars. That is when, as a platform, they make the most money. Let's look at a few key examples. The Wall campaign. In July 2018, a few miles outside El Paso, Texas, Brian Colfage, an Iraq War veteran and triple amputee, organized a special event after gathering a record $25 million through a GoFundMe page. As Rachel Monroe, an Atlantic journalist, described, quote, "The event had the feel of a smaller, sweatier Trump rally," end of the quote. The star of the day was a fence made of steel slats sunk into a concrete foundation that climbed up a 30-degree slope. "Welcome to the Wall," people said to each other. Right-wing celebrities attended the event, among them Chris Colbach, Steve Bannon, and Donald Trump Jr. During the presentations, one could hear that immigration was an invasion, an infection even. Some argued that GoFundMe discriminated against their campaign, but Kolfage had nothing but praise for the platform. He said they were very good to us. He ended up turning the wall campaign into a non-profit with Bannon as the advisory board chair to avoid legal issues and be able to build a wall on private land. On social media, he announced a, quote, massive wall party for our donors, as well as live cameras so you can watch the illegals, try to scale it, and fail. Kolfage updated the campaign to attract even more attention. He wrote, quote, we are about to surpass the liberal Me Too movement for the largest GoFundMe ever. Theirs was funded by Hollywood celebs, ours by American patriots. The wall was built. It covered less than 1% of the border. But the real victory was that Kolfage collected 3.5 million email addresses that he could then use for political purposes. Thank you, GoFundMe. Second example, Naël. On June 27, 17 years old Naël Merzouk was killed by a police officer in Nanterre, close to Paris. That is what triggered the wave of civil unrest across the country. I made an entire video on that topic if you want to check it out later. A few days later, far-right commentator and high official Jean Messia, who advised Marine Le Pen during her 2017 campaign, and then joined Éric Zemmour, the far-right candidate, during the 2022 campaign. Messia is well known by the public. He is frequently invited on entertainment TV shows because of his controversial takes. He's been accused of racism, Islamophobia, homophobia, but continues to gain more and more popularity online. In July 2023, Messia created a GoFundMe page to support the family of Florian M., the police officer who killed Naël. The description read as follows, quote, support to the family of Nanterre's police officer, Florian M., who has done his job and is now paying the price. Support him massively and support our police forces. End of the quote. Many called out GoFundMe for supporting such a fundraiser. Some used the section in the terms that was amended and now stipulated that no money could be raised for, quote, the legal defense of alleged financial and violent crimes. End of the quote. The platform responded to those concerns by stating that the fund complied with the company's rules because it supported the family, not the police officer. That is a wonderful loophole that Messia managed to exploit and that others may exploit in the future. Now, many French feminist pages on Instagram try to create a big backlash against GoFundMe. They asked, quote, would you have let on your website a fund that gathered $1.75 million for the family of Derek Chauvin, who killed George Floyd? No, that didn't change anything. GoFundMe did not back down. Eventually, the fund was closed by Messia himself after a member of parliament got the justice system involved, and the family of Naël threatened to file a lawsuit against him. In the meantime, the fund made the news. The page became a platform for racism. It said to the blacks and Arabs of France that those who killed them could become millionaires. Now, these are examples of when GoFundMe gets really, really ugly, and that makes it really, really easy for me to criticize them. But what happens when the platform is used for good political causes, causes that align with the democratic goal of protecting human rights? In 2018, during the Me Too movement, the Time's Up Legal Defense Fund was created and soon became one of the most successful campaigns on the platform. Another campaign for Christine Blasey Ford, who testified before the Senate committee as she accused Brett Kavanaugh of sexual assault, was also launched to help her and her family remain safe. Naturally, GoFundMe communicated on those funds. They said, quote, throughout the years we saw people respond to the news and come together to stand up for women's rights and fight sexual harassment and violence against women. From friends supporting each other in local communities to women on the national stage, such as Dr. Ford, we saw people engage, find community, and turn compassion into action. In fact, Solomon, the CEO, who said that he wanted to turn GoFundMe into, quote, the take action button of the internet. When they donate, contributors feel like they are part of something. They turn their political views into influence. As we saw, GoFundMe is way more than a fundraising platform. It has an impact on public discourses. It has a political influence. People who donate understand that. They prefer to use fast food democracy platforms like GoFundMe rather than casting a vote. It makes more sense to directly fund the projects in which you believe in rather than support a democratic system in crisis. But that is concerning. It is concerning because fast food democracy is not much better than the system we currently have. It depends on who can raise the most money, and that money does not always convert into what is intended. Remember the wall project that only covered 1% of the border. Also, Kolfitch was sentenced to 4 years and 3 months of prison because he stole money from donors, hundreds of thousands of dollars. Political influence shouldn't be conditioned to the amount of money one has. But that is the world we live in. That is the world GoFundMe represents. Now, I don't want this to be yet another anti-capitalist video that only critiques. Concluding by saying that the world shouldn't be dictated by money is kind of lame, isn't it? I believe in that statement, don't get me wrong, but I understand how limited it is. I understand how it can even be part of the problem. By that I mean that being an anti-capitalist is not too difficult. Criticizing capitalism is quite consensual. Whether it has to do with consumerism, social media, automation, AI, we all have something to say about capitalism, no matter where we stand on the political spectrum. The problem then is, what do we actually do about it? Criticizing is cathartic, sure. Anti-capitalism can be a profitable business, I agree with that. But what do we actually do about it? The books and articles I have read to prepare for this video point at the necessity to allow more people to participate in the democratic process by facilitating access to voting, or by allowing each citizen to allocate an equal sum of money to their favorite political party. These are all measures defended by social democrats, so they don't change the rules of the game, aka money equals representation equals power, but they try to reduce the inequalities generated by those rules. Now, I used to be a social democrat, and I still believe in the necessity of social democracy to at least help people for whom band-aid social measures can still be helpful. But we can't stop there. It is radical, extremist almost, to believe that capitalism can be regulated, that true democracy can be achieved within a capitalist system. I'm being pragmatic, realistic when I say that social democracy is not enough. What happened with GoFundMe and Nael, even the existence of GoFundMe, is symptomatic of how broken our liberal democracies are. If you agree with that, if you feel that discomfort, the same discomfort I feel whenever I'm faced with the monstrosity that is capitalism, then I'd recommend you start exploring what is beyond anti-capitalism, and I will put some resources for that in the description box. That's it for today. I really enjoyed making this video. It was a little bit different from what I usually do. I don't know, was it? I don't know. I hope you enjoyed it too. As always, the conversation continues in the comment section. Don't forget to like, to share, that's really important, to subscribe if it's not already done. I would like to thank my patrons for their support, and a special thank to top tier patrons Ivan, Jason, Trébizonde, Rémi, Corrigi, Tristan, Patricia, Christopher, Ian, Donage, Alex, Ren, Edwin, Sam, Manuel, Benjamin, Perry, and Carla. Before I let you go, I need to talk to you about today's sponsor, Squarespace. Squarespace is an all-in-one platform for building your brand and growing your business online. You can create your own website around your preferred aesthetic from a catalog of templates and use it as a landing platform for all the activity you do: YouTube, online shop, blog, podcast, photography, etc. Once that is set up, you can connect all your social media accounts and share content between different platforms. Squarespace can also help you create effective email campaigns to really connect with your community. Finally, they have this very cool feature where you can connect and learn from other creators like Adrien Raquel, who will show you how you can best use the platform. If you feel like Squarespace is made for you and you want to check it out, go to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you've experimented and you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/alice.cappelleyt to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Thank you Squarespace for sponsoring the video, and that's it for me. Salut! Je suis en train de tourner. Ouais, j'ai bientôt fini.